Lyrelay pressed her pale fingers against the cold metal wall and closed her eyes. The ship was dying around her. She could feel it in the way the metal hummed with wrong vibrations. The Star Whisper had been her home for 6 months before everything went bad. Now it felt like a tomb floating in the empty black space between stars. The elf opened her green eyes and looked around the dim control room. Most of the lights had failed weeks ago. Only the emergency power strips gave off their weak red glow. The air recyclers made strange clicking sounds that worried her more each day. Soon even those would stop working. Zara worked at the broken communication panel across the room. The alien scientist had 4 arms that moved like a dancer as she tried to repair the quantum transmitter. Her blue skin caught the red light and made her look like a living gem. Crystalline plates along her forehead and shoulders reflected tiny sparkles when she moved her head. The Zalani woman had been working on that same panel for 3 days now. Her people were known across the galaxy for being brilliant with technology. If anyone could fix their communication system, it would be Zara. But even she was running out of parts to use. Lyrelay walked to the food storage area and checked their supplies again. 2 meal packets left, maybe 3 if they cut the portions, even smaller than they already had. Her stomach felt empty and tight. She had not eaten a full meal in over a week. She remembered when their crew had 12 people. Scientists and engineers from 3 different worlds working together to study the strange gravity fields in this region of space. The mission had been going well until their main engine exploded without warning. The blast killed 4 crew members instantly and damaged every major system on the ship. The escape pods had launched automatically when the engine blew. Most of the surviving crew made it to the pods before the life support in those sections failed, but Lyrelay and Zara had been in the sealed navigation chamber when it happened. By the time they cut through the damaged bulkhead, the pods were gone. That was 3 months ago. The navigation systems still worked, but only barely. Lyrelay could feel the stellar currents around their ship like invisible rivers flowing through space. Her people had always been able to sense these currents. It was how elves navigated between worlds long before other species developed star maps. But sensing the currents did no good without working engines. The Star Whisper drifted wherever the gravity fields pushed it, sometimes toward distant stars, and sometimes toward empty darkness. Right now, they were moving slowly toward a red dwarf star that would take 2 years to reach at their current speed. They would be dead long before then. Zara made a frustrated sound, and all 4 of her arms stopped moving at once. She leaned back in her chair and looked at Lyrelay with tired eyes. "The transmitter core is completely burned out," Zara said in her musical voice. "I can build a basic emergency beacon, but the range will be very short. Maybe a few light hours at most." Lyrelay nodded. She had expected this news. "How long before you can have it ready?" 2 days if I work without stopping, but the power drain will use up our remaining energy reserves even faster. Do it anyway. We have to try something." Zara's 4 hands began moving again. She took apart components from other broken systems and sorted the pieces into neat piles. Her people approached every problem like building a puzzle. They would test each piece until they found the ones that fit together properly. Lyrelay returned to the navigation console and tried to make sense of their position. The stellar currents in this region were chaotic and unpredictable. Most spacefaring species avoided this area because ships could be torn apart by sudden gravity storms. The research mission had been here specifically to study these dangerous fields. Now those same fields kept them trapped like insects in a web. She touched the navigation controls and felt the familiar tingle as her consciousness expanded beyond the ship. This was the gift her people had. They could sense the flow of space itself and ride those currents between worlds. But it took years of training to do it safely. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel the twisted patterns of gravity around them. Massive forces pulled in different directions as dead stars and black holes fought an invisible war. The mathematics made her head hurt, but she kept trying to find a safe path through the chaos. Hours passed. Zara worked on her beacon while Lyrelay mapped the gravity currents. Neither woman spoke much. They had talked about everything possible during the long weeks of being stranded. Their histories and their hopes, their fears about dying alone in space, their regrets about things left undone. Now they worked in comfortable silence. each focused on their own impossible task, while the ship drifted deeper into the stellar graveyard. The air recycler made a new sound, a grinding noise that had not been there before. Lyrelei looked up from her console with worry in her eyes. Zara heard it too and paused in her work. "How long?" Lyrelei asked. Zara closed her eyes and listened to the machines struggling to clean their air. Her people had excellent hearing and could identify mechanical problems by sound alone. "Maybe 5 days before it fails completely," she said finally. 6, if we reduce our activity to minimum levels." Lyrelei felt something cold settle in her stomach. Even if Zara finished the beacon tomorrow, they would need incredible luck for anyone to find them in time. This region of space was empty of trade routes and patrol ships. The few vessels that came here were usually criminals hiding from authorities, or researchers like themselves. She looked out through the small viewport at the stars. They seemed so far away and so cold. Her homeworld felt like something from a dream now. Green forests and silver cities seemed impossible when surrounded by endless night. But she kept working on the navigation systems anyway. Not because she believed they would escape, but because giving up felt worse than trying. Zara felt the same way about her beacon. They would keep fighting until the very end, because that was who they were. The ship groaned softly as it moved through another gravity field. Metal stressed and flexed in ways it was never designed to handle. But the Star Whisper held together for another day. Tomorrow, they would try again to find a way home. Lyrelei opened the last food packet with shaking hands. The emergency ration inside looked like gray paste and smelled like old metal. She divided it carefully into 2 portions and handed the larger half to Zara. "You need more energy for the beacon work," Lyrelei said, when Zara tried to refuse the extra food. The blue-skinned scientist nodded and ate slowly. She had been working on the emergency transmitter for 4 days straight. Dark circles under her eyes showed how tired she was, but the beacon was almost ready. The air recycler had gotten worse during the night. Now it made grinding sounds every few minutes, and the air smelled stale. Lyrelei tried not to think about what would happen when it stopped working completely. She returned to the navigation console and extended her senses into space around them. The stellar currents felt more twisted than before. The dead stars in this region were pulling them toward a cluster of black holes. Even if someone found their beacon signal, they might not be able to reach the ship in time. Something felt different today. Lyrelei frowned and focused harder on the currents flowing past their ship. There was a new pattern in the chaos, something that did not belong in this graveyard of stars. "Zara," she called softly. "Come look at this." The alien scientist walked over on tired legs. Her forearms hung loosely at her sides. She had pushed herself too hard working on the beacon. "What do you sense?" Zara asked. "There is something moving out there. Something big." Lyrelei pointed toward the sensor display. "The gravity currents are being disturbed by an object moving very fast." Zara studied the readings with sharp eyes. Her people were experts at reading sensor data. After a moment, she made a surprised sound. "That cannot be right," she said. "According to these readings, there is a ship moving through the gravity storm at impossible speeds. The gravitational forces should tear any known vessel apart." Lyrelei felt excitement building in her chest. "How far away?" 2 light hours and closing. "But the energy signature makes no sense. I have never seen propulsion readings like this." They watched the sensor display as the unknown ship moved closer. It seemed to slide between the gravity fields like water flowing around rocks. No ship they knew could navigate the stellar graveyard so easily. "Could it be a new type of drive system?" Lyrelei asked. Zara shook her head with all 4 hands, moving in confusion. "The physics are all wrong. This ship appears to be manipulating space itself rather than pushing against it. My people have theoretical models for such technology, but we always believed it was impossible to build." The unknown vessel continued its approach. Lyrelei felt the stellar currents around it behaving in ways that should not happen. Instead of the chaotic turbulence normal in this region, the currents flowed smooth and steady near the approaching ship. "We need to send a signal," Lyrelei said. Zara nodded and hurried back to her workstation. She activated the emergency beacon she had been building. It was not finished, but it could send a basic distress call for a few light hours. The beacon, powered up with a weak hum. Zara adjusted the frequency and began transmitting their location and emergency status. The message repeated every 30 seconds in Galactic Common Language. For an hour, nothing happened. The unknown ship continued moving toward them but did not respond to their signal. Lyreley began to worry it might pass by without noticing their small vessel. Then, the communication panel crackled to life. The voice that came through was speaking broken Galactic Common with an accent neither woman had heard before. The words were clear, but the grammar was strange. "This is Captain Lisa Monroe of the human vessel New Horizon. We have received your distress signal. Are you in immediate danger?" Lyreley and Zara looked at each other with wide eyes. Neither had ever heard of humans before. According to all their star charts, this region of space was uninhabited by intelligent species. Zara activated the communication system with trembling hands. "This is Dr. Zara Kethvar of the research vessel Star Whisper. We have been stranded for 3 months. Our engines and life support systems are failing. We have 2 survivors aboard." There was a pause before the human voice responded. "Understood, Star Whisper. We are moving to intercept your position. Estimated arrival in 4 hours. Can your life support hold out that long?" "Yes," Zara replied quickly. "But our air recycling system is damaged and failing." "Acknowledged. We will bring emergency life support equipment. Please prepare for docking procedures." The communication ended and left them in stunned silence. Rescue was coming from a species they had never heard of using technology that should not exist. Lyreley returned to the navigation console and tracked the approaching ship. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel it moving like nothing she had experienced before. The vessel seemed to dance between the gravity fields rather than fighting against them. "How is this possible?" she whispered. Zara was studying the sensor readings with intense focus. "Their ship appears to be riding the quantum fluctuations in spacetime itself. They are not using conventional propulsion at all. Instead, they are manipulating the fundamental structure of reality. Can your people do such things? We have the mathematical theories, but lack the technology to make them work. These humans seem to have solved problems that our greatest scientists consider impossible." The hours passed slowly as they waited for rescue. Lyreley prepared what few personal items she could carry. Zara backed up her research data onto portable storage devices. They did not know what these humans wanted in return for their help, but any price was worth paying to escape the dying ship. The air recycler made a loud grinding sound and then went silent. Emergency lighting flickered as power systems struggled to compensate for the lost equipment. They were running out of time. Lyreley felt the approaching ship through the stellar currents before she saw it on sensors. It moved with perfect grace through the chaotic gravity fields. As it came closer, she began to understand how it worked. The human vessel was not fighting against the forces around it. Instead, it was working with them, reading the patterns and riding the currents like her own people did, but using technology instead of natural ability. "Contact on visual sensors," Zara announced. Lyreley looked at the display screen and gasped. The human ship was beautiful in a way she had not expected. Sleek lines that curved like flowing water. Hull plating that seemed to shimmer as if it were not entirely solid. It looked more like a living creature than a machine. The communication panel activated again. "Star Whisper, this is Captain Monroe. We are beginning approach for docking. Please prepare to receive emergency life support as soon as we make contact." "Understood," Zara replied. "We are ready." Lyreley watched through the viewport as the impossible ship drew near. She could see lights moving along its hull and small craft emerging from docking bays. The humans were already preparing to help, before they had even asked what caused the emergency. The stellar currents around both ships settled into smooth patterns as the human vessel took position nearby. Lyreley felt a strange sense of harmony that she had never experienced in this chaotic region of space. These humans did not just have impossible technology. They had found a way to bring order to chaos itself. The docking clamps engaged with a solid thump that Lyreley felt through the deck plating. For the first time in months, the Star Whisper was connected to another vessel. She heard the hiss of pressure seals engaging, and then the mechanical sound of an airlock cycling. Zara stood beside her near the main hatch. Both women were nervous about meeting these mysterious humans. They had no idea what to expect from a species that could navigate the stellar graveyard so easily. The inner airlock door opened and the first human stepped through. Captain Lisa Monroe was not what Lyralai had imagined. She was tall for a human, with short auburn hair and confident green eyes. Her uniform was practical rather than fancy. Dark blue fabric with simple insignia on the shoulders. She moved with the easy grace of someone comfortable in zero gravity. Behind her came three other humans. A woman with brown skin and kind eyes carried a large case of medical equipment. Another woman with black hair and clever fingers held scanning devices that hummed softly. The third human was blonde and carried what looked like portable life support gear. Dr. Kethvar and Navigator Lyralai, I presume, Captain Monroe said with a slight smile. Her galactic common was much better than it had sounded over the radio. I am Captain Lisa Monroe of the New Horizon. This is Dr. Amanda Price, our Chief Medical Officer, Maya Santos, our Chief Engineer, and Kelly Wright, our Communications Specialist. Zara stepped forward and spoke for both of them. We are grateful beyond words for your assistance, Captain. We had given up hope of rescue. Dr. Price was already scanning them with her medical devices. The readings made her frown with concern. When did you last have adequate nutrition? She asked. We finished our food supplies this morning, Lyralai admitted. And your air recycling system has failed completely, Maya Santos added, as she studied the readings from her engineering scanner. You have maybe 6 hours of breathable air left at current consumption rates. Captain Monroe nodded calmly. Kelly, begin setting up the temporary life support system. Maya, I want a full assessment of their ship systems. Amanda, please take care of our guests' immediate medical needs. The humans moved with efficient purpose. Kelly Wright activated portable air recyclers that immediately began improving the stale atmosphere in the ship. Maya Santos plugged diagnostic devices into the Star Whisper computer systems and began analyzing the damage. Dr. Price handed both women nutrition packets that were far better than anything in their emergency supplies. The food was warm and actually tasted good. Lyralai felt strength returning to her tired body as she ate. Your ship took significant damage, Maya announced after studying the engineering reports. Main propulsion is completely destroyed. Life. Support systems are failing across all sections, but the hull integrity is still good and most of your scientific equipment is intact. Can it be repaired? Zara asked hopefully. Maya grinned and her eyes lit up with enthusiasm. Oh, definitely. We have fabrication equipment that can rebuild your engines better than they were originally. The life support systems just need new power couplings and some upgraded components. Give me 2 days and this ship will be running like new. Lyralai stared at the young engineer in amazement. 2 days to repair damage that had stranded them for 3 months. Either the human was incredibly optimistic, or their technology was far more advanced than it appeared. Captain Monroe noticed her expression. Maya tends to be conservative in her estimates. She will probably have you operational in less than 30 hours. Kelly Wright had been studying their communication logs and scientific data. She looked up from her portable computer with curiosity in her eyes. Your research mission was studying gravitational anomalies in this region. Have you made any interesting discoveries? Zara's forearms moved excitedly as she began explaining their work. We mapped 17 distinct gravity field patterns and identified 3 previously unknown stellar remnants. The data suggests this entire region was once a massive star cluster that collapsed into black holes approximately 2 million years ago. Fascinating, Kelly replied with genuine interest. We have been charting safe navigation routes through this area for several months. Your gravitational maps would help us identify stable corridors for other ships to use. You want our research data? Lyralai asked with surprise. Captain Monroe shrugged casually. Only if you are willing to share it. We believe scientific knowledge belongs to everyone. The more we all understand about dangerous regions like this, the safer space travel becomes for all species. The concept was strange to Lyralai. Most species guarded their scientific discoveries carefully. Information was power, and power was not shared freely. But these humans seemed to approach knowledge differently. Maya had connected several of her devices to the Star Whisper main computer. I am uploading our technical database to your systems, she announced. Feel free to study our repair techniques and engineering solutions. You might find some applications for your own future missions. Zara looked shocked. You are giving us access to your technology? The basic principles anyway, Maya confirmed. We have learned that sharing knowledge makes everyone stronger. Your people might develop improvements that we never thought of. Dr. Price finished her medical scans and smiled with relief. Both of you are malnourished and exhausted, but otherwise healthy. A few days of proper food and rest will have you feeling normal again. She handed them each a small medical device. These are cellular regeneration boosters. They will help your bodies recover from the extended stress more quickly. Just apply them to your skin anywhere, and they will automatically adjust to your biology. The devices were smaller than Lyralay's palm and felt warm to the touch. When she pressed one against her arm, she felt a gentle tingling sensation and immediate relief from the aches in her tired muscles. How does it know how to work on different species? Zara asked with scientific curiosity. Adaptive medical technology, Dr. Price explained. The devices scan your cellular structure and DNA patterns, then adjust their treatment accordingly. We developed them because we encounter so many different life forms in our explorations. Your people explore unknown regions frequently? Lyralay asked. Captain Monroe nodded. Humans are naturally curious about what lies beyond the edge of known space. We have small exploration fleets scattered across several sectors, mapping new systems and investigating interesting phenomena. Are you looking for worlds to colonize? Sometimes we find suitable planets for human settlements, but mostly we explore to learn and to help others when we can. The galaxy is full of wonders that are worth discovering just for the joy of knowledge. Maya looked up from her engineering work with excitement. Captain, I think you should see this. Their navigation system is based on quantum field detection rather than traditional stellar positioning. The elf has been reading space-time currents directly. Captain Monroe turned to Lyralay with new interest. You can sense the gravitational fields around us? Lyralay nodded hesitantly. My people have always been able to feel the stellar currents. It is how we navigate between worlds. Remarkable. Our navigation systems work on similar principles, but we use technology to detect the quantum fluctuations. Would you be willing to work with our navigator, Beth Collins? She would love to learn how biological field detection compares to our instruments. The offer surprised Lyralay. You want to learn from us? We want to learn from everyone we meet, Captain Monroe said, simply. Every species has developed unique solutions to the challenges of space travel. Sharing knowledge makes all of us better explorers. Kelly Wright had been studying the communication logs from their original mission. Your research team was quite diverse, scientists from 3 different worlds working together on a joint project. The Silverleaf Confederation sponsors many cooperative research missions, Zara explained. We believe that multiple perspectives lead to better scientific understanding. We completely agree, Captain Monroe replied with approval. Diversity of thought is essential for solving complex problems. As the humans continued their work, Lyralay began to understand that rescue was just the beginning. These people were not just helping them survive, they were offering something much more valuable. A chance to be part of something larger than any single species could accomplish alone. Lyralay woke up in a real bed for the first time in months. The guest quarters aboard the New Horizon were simple but comfortable. Clean sheets and soft pillows felt like incredible luxury after sleeping on the floor of the dying Star Whisper. She had slept for 12 hours straight. Her body was finally recovering from months of stress and poor nutrition. The cellular regeneration device Dr. Price had given her was still working. She could feel her strength returning as damaged tissues repaired themselves. The door chimed softly, and Captain Monroe entered with 2 cups of hot beverage. I thought you might like some coffee. It is a human stimulant drink that most species find pleasant. The coffee was bitter but warming. Lyralay felt her mind becoming more alert as she drank it. How is the repair work progressing? Maya has your engines operational again. Better than operational, actually. She upgraded your power systems and improved your hull shielding. The Star Whisper is now capable of safely navigating the gravity fields that originally trapped you. That was amazing news, but Captain Monroe looked like she had more to say. She sat down across from Lyralay with a thoughtful expression. I wanted to speak with you about something Dr. Kethvar mentioned yesterday. She said her people suffer from a degenerative condition affecting their crystalline bone structure. Lyrelay nodded sadly. The crystal rot has affected the Zilani for generations. Their bones slowly lose cohesion as they age. Most die before reaching what humans would consider middle age. Zara is already showing early symptoms despite being relatively young. Dr. Price believes she can help. Human medical technology approaches cellular degeneration differently than most species. Instead of trying to stop the breakdown, we focus on encouraging natural regeneration. You think you can cure the crystal rot? Captain Monroe held up a warning hand. We cannot promise a cure, but Dr. Price has developed a treatment approach that might slow the progression significantly. She wants to work with Dr. Kethvar to test the theory. Lyrelai felt hope building in her chest. Zara had accepted her people's genetic curse as inevitable. The possibility of treatment would mean everything to her. What would this cost? Lyrelai asked carefully. The Zilani government would pay almost any price for effective medical treatments. We do not want payment, Captain Monroe said with surprise. Helping others is not a business transaction for humans. It is simply the right thing to do. The concept still felt strange to Lyrelai. Most species expected compensation for valuable services, but she was beginning to understand that humans operated by different rules. A soft tone indicated someone requesting entry. Captain Monroe granted permission, and Maya Santos entered with an excited expression. Lyrelai, you need to come. See what we discovered, Maya announced. Beth Collins has been working with your navigation data, and the results are incredible. They walked through the corridors of the human ship toward the bridge. Everything was clean and efficient, but not sterile. Personal items and artwork from different worlds decorated the walls. This was clearly a ship where people lived and worked, together rather than just surviving. The bridge was larger than the Star Whisper control room, but felt more open and welcoming. Large view screens showed the space around them with detailed overlay graphics. Beth Collins stood at the navigation station, studying holographic star charts. She was a woman in her 40s with gray streaks in her brown hair and laugh lines around her eyes. When she saw Lyrelai approaching, she smiled with genuine excitement. Your people's ability to read stellar currents is remarkable, Beth said without preamble. You can detect quantum fluctuations that our instruments barely register. But when we combine your biological sensing with our technological analysis, the results are extraordinary. She activated a three-dimensional display that showed the gravitational fields around their current position. The chaotic turbulence that Lyrelai had struggled to navigate appeared as flowing patterns of light and color. Watch this, Beth continued as she adjusted the display parameters. When I overlay your field readings with our probability calculations, the hidden structure becomes visible. The display changed dramatically. What had looked like random chaos now showed clear pathways threading between the dangerous gravity storms, safe routes that could allow ships to navigate the stellar graveyard without being torn apart. You found stable corridors, Lyrelai breathed in amazement. We found them together, Beth corrected. Neither my instruments nor your natural abilities could see these patterns alone, but combined, they reveal navigation routes that should not exist. Maya nodded enthusiastically. We could establish permanent shipping lanes through this region. Colonies on the far side of the stellar graveyard could finally have regular contact with the galactic core worlds. The implications were staggering. This region of space had been considered impassable for centuries. Opening it to safe navigation would transform trade routes and exploration efforts across multiple star systems. There is more, Beth continued as she brought up additional star charts. If this technique works here, it should work in other dangerous regions as well. Quantum storm areas that currently block exploration could become navigable. Captain Monroe studied the displays with obvious interest. How many ships do we have with biological navigation consultants? Currently, 3 vessels have crew members with some form of quantum field sensitivity, Beth replied. But most species with these abilities consider them primitive instincts rather than valuable skills. The elves of the Silverleaf Confederation have the strongest natural navigation abilities of any known species, Lyrelai said thoughtfully. But we use them mainly for traditional pathfinding between established star systems. Would your people be interested in expanding their navigational work? Captain Monroe asked. Lyrelai felt excitement building. Many young elves would jump at the chance to explore unknown regions. Navigation has always been central to our culture, but we have been limited by conventional technology. Maya activated another display showing the human exploration fleet positions. We have 12 ships, currently charting unknown sectors. Each could benefit from having navigation specialists with quantum field sensitivity aboard. You are offering us positions on your exploration ships? Lyreley asked with surprise. We are offering partnership, Captain Monroe corrected. Your people provide navigation expertise, and we provide technological support. Together, we can explore regions that neither of us could safely reach alone. Beth Collins pulled up data files on her personal computer. I have been corresponding with Dr. Kethavar about Zalani research methods. Their approach to scientific investigation is remarkably thorough. They test every theory from multiple angles before drawing conclusions. Zara is one of the best scientists her people have produced, Lyreley confirmed. She mentioned that Zalani researchers often spend decades studying single phenomena to fully understand them. That level of patience and attention to detail would be invaluable for long-term exploration missions. Captain Monroe nodded in agreement. We humans tend to be eager for quick results. Having researchers who think in longer time scales would help us avoid missing important discoveries. Maya activated a technical display showing ship modification plans. We could easily adapt our vessels to accommodate multiple species. Environmental controls for different atmospheric requirements. Workstations designed for various body types. Cultural spaces for different dietary and social needs. You have thought about this extensively, Lyreley observed. Diversity makes teams stronger, Captain Monroe replied. Human crews are good at adapting to new situations quickly, but we benefit greatly from working with specialists who bring different perspectives and abilities. Beth Collins showed them navigation charts for several unexplored star clusters. There are so many regions we have not been able to investigate safely, quantum storms and gravitational anomalies that our current technology cannot handle reliably. But with biological navigation support, we could explore areas that have been mysteries for centuries, Maya added excitedly. Lyreley looked at the star charts with wonder. Each unexplored region represented countless discoveries waiting to be made. New worlds to catalog, strange phenomena to study, perhaps even other species to encounter and learn from. When would such partnerships begin? She asked. Captain Monroe smiled. As soon as you and Dr. Kethavar are ready to help us contact your respective governments, we believe this kind of cooperation will benefit everyone involved. The Star Whisper hummed with new life as its upgraded engines powered up for the first time. Lyreley stood at the navigation console, feeling the familiar tingle as her consciousness expanded into space around them. But something was different now. The chaotic currents that had trapped them for months flowed in patterns she could finally understand. Maya Santos had done more than repair their ship. She had integrated human probability mapping technology with the Elven navigation systems. Now, when Lyreley reached out with her natural abilities, she could see the safe pathways that Beth Collins had shown her on the new horizon. Zara worked beside her at the science station, preparing for their journey home. The Zalani scientist looked healthier than she had in months. Dr. Price's experimental treatment was already showing promising results. The crystal rot progression had not just slowed, but actually reversed in several areas. Captain Monroe entered the control room carrying a data pad with official documents. The communications are complete. Both the Silverleaf Confederation and the Zalani Science Council have agreed to preliminary cooperation agreements. The negotiations had taken 3 days of careful diplomatic work. Kelly Wright had helped establish secure communication links with both governments. Captain Monroe had personally explained the benefits of working together to explore dangerous regions of space. The Confederation Council is sending an exploration ship to rendezvous with us at the edge of this sector, Lyreley reported. They want to see the new navigation techniques demonstrated before committing to larger partnerships. The Science Council is even more enthusiastic, Zara added with forearmed excitement. They are assigning a research team to work with Dr. Price on developing treatments for genetic conditions affecting multiple species. Beth Collins had spent the morning teaching Lyreley advanced techniques for reading quantum field fluctuations. The combination of biological sensitivity and technological analysis opened up navigation possibilities that neither species had imagined before. Are you ready to begin our journey? Captain Monroe asked. Lyra nodded and began plotting their course through the stellar graveyard. The route that would have been impossible a week ago now appeared clearly in her enhanced senses. Safe corridors threading between black holes and gravity storms that would take them to civilized space in just 4 days. The New Horizon took position alongside the Star Whisper as both ships prepared to depart. Captain Monroe would be traveling with them to the rendezvous point where formal diplomatic meetings would establish the framework for ongoing cooperation. Maya's voice came over the communication system from the human ship. All systems show green. Your new engines are performing beautifully. Dr. Price had insisted on monitoring Zara's medical condition during the journey. The experimental treatment needed careful observation to ensure it continued working safely. But early results suggested it might help not just the Zalani but other species with similar genetic disorders. Beginning departure sequence, Lyra announced as she felt the stellar currents flowing around them. The two ships moved together through the first gravity field with perfect synchronization. Lyra guided them along the safe pathway while Beth Collins confirmed their position using technological instruments. Working together, they could navigate with precision that neither could achieve alone. As they traveled deeper into the stellar graveyard, Lyra reflected on how much had changed. A week ago, she had been preparing to die in the empty darkness between stars. Now she was part of something that could transform space exploration for multiple species. Zara was studying the human technical databases that Maya had shared with them. Their adaptive engineering approach is remarkable, she commented. Instead of following rigid design principles, they modify their technology to meet specific challenges. That seems to be how humans approach most problems, Lyra observed. They refuse to accept that anything is impossible. The communication panel activated with an incoming message from the New Horizon. Beth Collins appeared on the screen with obvious excitement. Lyra, you need to see this. We are detecting quantum signatures from 3 previously unknown stellar remnants. Your biological sensors are picking up gravitational patterns that our instruments missed completely. Additional discoveries were already being made during their journey home. The combination of human technology and elven navigation abilities was revealing hidden structures in regions that had been studied for decades. Captain Monroe joined Beth on the communication screen. Dr. Kethvar, would you be interested in establishing a permanent research station in this region? We could provide the technological support while your people conduct long-term studies of the gravitational phenomena. Zara's eyes lit up with scientific enthusiasm. A joint research facility would allow us to study these anomalies properly. The Zalani Science Council has been wanting to establish deep space research stations for years. We already have the basic infrastructure plans, Maya's voice added from off-screen. Modular stations that can be configured for different research requirements and multiple species needs. Lyra felt the stellar currents shifting as they approached the edge of the stellar graveyard. Soon they would be in normal space where conventional navigation worked reliably. But she no longer thought of this chaotic region as a barrier to be avoided. With the right partnerships, it could become a highway connecting distant parts of the galaxy. Contact on long-range sensors, Zara announced. The Confederation ship Moon Whisper is approaching the rendezvous coordinates. Captain Monroe smiled with satisfaction. Excellent timing. Beth has prepared a full demonstration of the navigation techniques for your people. The next few hours would be crucial for establishing trust between the species. But Lyra felt confident about the outcome. She had seen how humans approached cooperation. They shared knowledge freely and asked for partnership rather than demanding submission. There is one more thing I wanted to discuss, Captain Monroe said as they prepared for the diplomatic meetings. We have been charting unexplored regions beyond the galactic rim, areas where no species has ever traveled successfully. She activated a star chart showing the edge of known space. Beyond the established star systems lay vast regions marked only as uncharted territory. Our long-range surveys suggest there are stable star clusters out there, possibly worlds that could support life. But the distances and hazards make exploration extremely dangerous with current technology. Lyra studied the chart with growing excitement. You want to organize expeditions beyond known space. We want to offer every species the chance to be part of humanity's greatest adventure, exploring the unknown together rather than competing for resources in already claimed territories. The concept was breathtaking in its scope. Instead of fighting over existing worlds, they could work together to discover new ones. The galaxy was vast enough to provide homes and opportunities for countless species if they could learn to cooperate. Zara looked up from her scientific instruments with wonder in her eyes. The quantum signatures from those distant regions suggest unusual stellar formations, phenomena that could revolutionize our understanding of cosmic evolution. Then we are all agreed, Captain Monroe said with quiet satisfaction. This rescue mission has become the beginning of something much larger. The Star Whisper and New Horizon emerged from the stellar graveyard into the clear space beyond. Ahead of them, the lights of the Confederation ship Moon Whisper waited to begin the next phase of their journey. Lyreley felt the stellar currents flowing smooth and steady around them. The chaos that had once trapped them now represented pathways to adventure and discovery. The silence of deep space no longer felt empty and threatening. It felt full of infinite possibilities waiting to be explored together.